Imagine you're standing in the middle of a room. Suddenly, a question is posed. The correct answer is so obvious, even a child could easily spot it. Yet, everyone around you unanimously chooses a different option. A choice that is completely wrong. How would you react? Do you think you'd have the courage to speak up for the truth? Science has proven you might very well be deceiving yourself. Astonishingly, 75% of people would look you straight in the eye and calmly lie about an undeniable truth right before them, just to avoid being seen as the odd one out. This isn't just a hypothesis, it's a demonstration from a classic psychology experiment that reshaped the world's understanding. In 1951, the renowned psychologist Solomon Asch placed one volunteer in a room with 7 Confederates. The task assigned was incredibly simple: compare the lengths of lines. In the initial rounds of trials, everyone gave the correct answer. However, when the next round began, the 7 actors unanimously yet resolutely picked a line that was clearly much shorter. The volunteer began to break out in a cold sweat. His eyes darted back and forth between the line, the crowd, and then back to the line again. And the outcome was truly astonishing. Over 3/4 of participants completely ignored what their own eyes were telling them, simply to blindly nod along with the misguided opinion of the crowd. But what's truly chilling, what will send shivers down your spine, what's even more remarkable is that this very experiment was replicated in 2023. In an era overflowing with information and where individual freedom is highly championed, yet the results were absolutely identical, precisely the same as before. Our brains still instinctively lean towards blending in with the crowd, rather than standing firm with objective truth. Every single one of us prides ourselves on being independent individuals, possessing our own distinct way of thinking. But let's be truly honest with ourselves for a moment. How many of the opinions swirling in your mind are genuinely your own creation? Or are they merely exact copies of what you've absorbed online, from your close-knit circle of friends, or from what's often touted as self-evident truth? The so-called common sense relentlessly dictates that you must do this, you must buy that, you must despise someone, and you comply, simply because it feels like the safest option. Your brain isn't afraid of making mistakes, it's terrified of being abandoned, of being isolated. Imagine you're watching a movie so utterly terrible, yet amidst the endless praise from your friends, you can't help but nod in agreement. I suppose it does have a certain artistic flair. Yet, Friedrich Nietzsche, the greatest madman philosophy ever produced, once issued a powerful warning. That very sense of security, seemingly so innocuous, is slowly transforming you into a complacent fool, lost in the self-satisfaction of the herd. Today, we will dissect and lay bare the true nature of this insidious trap. What compels a staggering 75% of us to willingly become liars? What drives a species that prides itself on its intelligence to willingly cast aside the eyes of reason, only to blindly follow the masses? The answer isn't found in IQ scores, but rather lies hidden within a primal, dark instinct that Friedrich Nietzsche had already identified and meticulously analyzed over 140 years ago. He never used the term peer pressure to describe it. Instead, he bestowed upon it a name infinitely more grim: herd morality. Nietzsche observed that the vast majority of humanity doesn't truly live in the profound sense of the word. Instead, we are merely reacting unconsciously. We rarely question the beliefs we hold, but simply adopt them, much like an outdated garment that has been passed down and donned through countless generations. To mask this pervasive conformity, we've bestowed upon it an elegant label: common sense. Yet Nietzsche, with his characteristic unsparing insight, laid bare the stark truth behind it. He pointed out that what is called common sense is, in essence, a defense mechanism of the majority, designed to resist anything truly superior or unique. Nietzsche famously branded this phenomenon a trap. Let's revisit the compelling Asch experiment, when everyone unanimously insisted that the shorter line was, in fact, the longer one. That was precisely the moment the majority began to forge a new common sense. If you dared to voice your dissent, you weren't merely seen as different, you were perceived as a genuine threat. In his profound work, Beyond Good and Evil, he penned these insightful words: "Everything that elevates an individual above the masses and instills fear in those around them will, from that moment on, be branded as evil." Let's take a brief moment to truly ponder this. Why, when you dare to dream of leaving your job to launch a startup, are you so quickly dismissed as unrealistic? Why, when you courageously challenge an illogical tradition, are you instantly branded a rebel or difficult? It's because the majority cares little for the absolute truth. What it truly prioritizes is simply cohesion. In the eyes of the masses, a brilliant individual who dares to defy the current is far more frightening than 1,000 obedient fools marching in lockstep. What they call common sense is precisely the weapon they wield to drag you back into their ranks, to uphold the meticulously crafted facade of false peace they had so painstakingly built. And this is precisely when everything begins to take a much darker, more ominous turn. What's truly striking is that the herd itself remains utterly oblivious to its own collective nature. Each individual within it firmly believes their own perspective is entirely objective, an undeniable truth. Yet, the great philosopher Nietzsche once issued a profoundly insightful warning. Madness in an individual is rare, but when it emerges within groups, it becomes an unwritten rule. With a vision far ahead of his time, Nietzsche precisely identified this complex psychological mechanism. What you truly fear isn't being wrong, but the terrifying prospect of being isolated from the collective. Because, from the most primal, instinctual perspective, isolation equates to facing certain death. Terrifyingly, your brain is programmed to readily sacrifice the truth, merely to gain acceptance from the community. And the inevitable consequence? You systematically become foolish without even realizing it. You no longer dare to question. You begin to self-censor every single thought, every idea you have, even before they can be uttered, vanishing without a trace. You begin to agonizingly question your conscience. Could it be that I am the most insane one here, for daring to confront the truths the entire world is deliberately trying to deny? No, you are not insane for daring to acknowledge and confront the truth. You are simply refusing to participate in a perilous collective intellectual suicide. Nietzsche once observed that the very nature of the herd is to constantly seek refuge within the deceptive guise of safety offered by the majority. Yet as we step into the 21st century, the herd no longer congregates in public squares as it once did. They're practically in your pocket. In fact, the social media algorithms currently in play are the clearest and most insidious manifestation of herd mentality. They were never designed to uncover truth. Instead, they're merely programmed to gauge engagement. But what then is the most potent catalyst for engagement? None other than tribal consensus and collective outrage. To see this in action, try posting an opinion that goes against the grain, a perspective that demands thoughtful consideration. The result? A paltry handful of likes, 0 shares, and the algorithm will instantly suppress it. But what if you simply echo a prevailing sentiment, a self-evident truth that the community is fervently embracing? You'll reap the rewards: countless likes, widespread acclaim, and a profound sense of belonging. The algorithm isn't just a mirror reflecting the herd, it weaponizes it. It penalizes independent thought by rendering it invisible. Conversely, it grants popularity to those who toe the line. We are willingly confining ourselves within a prison without bars, where likes themselves become our wardens. So how exactly does this turn you into a fool? True wisdom always emanates from subtlety and intricate layers, yet the digital masses often tend to reject complexity. Nietzsche once issued a warning: if a belief is repeated enough times, it will inevitably transform into a self-evident truth. In today's age, a piece of information, even if false, yet popular with the masses, can spread up to 6 times faster than the truth. Your brain is no longer optimized for accuracy. Instead, you are tuning it to conform to algorithmic safety. You begin to self-censor your thoughts even before they're written down. Will saying this get me criticized? The moment you begin to dread opposition from the online crowd, you have officially succumbed to herd morality. At this point, common sense is no longer merely knowledge, but it has transformed into a form of digital subservience. At this juncture, you might ask yourself, so what should I do? Does it mean confronting everyone? Nietzsche never promised you a path paved with roses. He affirmed that the price of awakening is solitude. If you decide to embark on the search for truth, the crowd will never leave you in peace. They will attack your arguments, brand you with labels, and try to lure you back into the deceptive comfort of ignorance. Wisdom isn't intimidating because it's inherently flawed, but it's terrifying because it exposes truths that others are desperately trying to avoid. When you no longer blindly conform to common sense, you're not merely thinking differently, you're openly challenging their illusory sense of security. Nietzsche outlined a detailed map for us to break free from collective ignorance through 3 core stages of transformation. The camel. This is the stage where you accept submission. bearing all societal prejudices without ever questioning them. The lion. This is when you boldly roar no. You let out a roar to shatter outdated values. This is the stage for those who dare to confront the Ash experiment and unequivocally declare, "You are wrong. This is the correct line." The child. This is the ultimate goal, a truly fresh spirit, creating its own game, redefining all values without needing anyone's permission. You don't need to try and convince the masses. You just need to allow yourself to raise a dissenting voice. In the Ash experiment, if just one individual dares to speak differently, the rate of unconditional obedience has plummeted from 32% to just 5%. Your presence is a powerful antidote, dissolving all negativity in any given space. Nietzsche famously declared, "You must have chaos within you to give birth to a dancing star." That unsettling feeling when you realize you're being manipulated is precisely the chaos Nietzsche referred to. Don't be afraid when you find yourself alone in your thoughts. Instead, truly fear when you find yourself identical to everyone else around you. For at that point, you cease to exist as an independent individual. The ultimate question for you isn't whether you are right or wrong, but rather, do you have the courage to stand by the truth even if you're alone? Share a conviction you genuinely arrived at on your own, not inherited from others. Write in the comments section. Prove to me that there are still free spirits here. And if this truth hits a nerve, then good, that's precisely when you begin to awaken. We've been on a long journey, starting with Solomon Asch. To the passionate writings of Nietzsche, you've witnessed how the brain is willing to betray the truth in exchange for a sense of security, and how the digital world is gradually trapping us. Right now, you are facing a crucial turning point. You can choose to stop this video, blend in with the crowd, and continue to accept what everyone assumes is true. That path is comfortable, safe, and demands no effort, yet the price is the paralysis of thought. Or you can venture onto a different path, the path of a free spirit, a path where every time you're about to exclaim, "I agree," you'll pause for a moment to ask yourself, is this truly my own thought or merely the collective voice of the masses? Don't try to change the whole world. Start by not letting the world corrupt your true self. Be brave enough to be considered foolish in the eyes of the majority, as long as you remain true to your own conscience. Nietzsche once asserted, "You have your way, I have my way. As for the one true path, it does not exist." And here's the final question. In a world where everyone yearns to fit in, do you have the courage to stand firm alone, etch your personal mark, an idea you are willing to fight to defend? That is the genesis of a true Übermensch. Thank you sincerely for joining me. Don't forget to subscribe to keep following. Goodbye, and always keep your mind absolutely free.